All. Today is August 17th, 2021. Board of County Commissioners regular meeting will convene. We will have the invocation of pledge if Pastor Anna Ruth Burgess could come on up. Hopefully I said your last name properly. Thank you. Also, if we could, before you start, just bow our heads for a moment of silence. We had Deputy Sheriff Mazzata and some other members of our community just passed of recent. I think it's appropriate if we give them a moment of silence for all the contributions they did to our community. Thank you all. I appreciate that. Pastor?
Let us pray. Lord, we just thank you for your amazing love. We thank you for another day, another opportunity that you give us to reflect your character on this earth. We thank you for the honor and privilege to represent our city. Father God, we realize more than any other time in our lives that we can do nothing apart from you, that we can do nothing in our own strength. We understand that the responsibility that has been given to us is so much greater than ourselves. So we come before you, Father God, all who are here today, to ask you for wisdom, that we may lead with certainty and courage in these unprecedented times. We pray that the decisions we make are motivated by truth and humility as we serve to meet the needs of our communities. And finally, Father, I pray for peace, your peace, the peace that surpasses all understanding in the midst of all the turmoil that we may face. We pray for peace in our homes, peace in our cities, and peace in our nation. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. You could turn to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, Pastor. Next, we'll move on to ceremonial presentations. Vice Chair Pendergrass.
Thank you, Chairman. If I could have Janet Bartos, anyone here with the Homeless Coalition, come forward? There she is. Good morning, Janet. We're here today for a celebration. So Janet, if you've not heard, is currently recently retiring from the Homeless Coalition. We'd like to read this resolution recognizing your efforts and thank you for everything you've done for the community. The resolution reads, whereas Ms. Janet Bartos, a tireless advocate for families and individuals who suffer from homelessness, has served the Southwest Florida community for 14 years as the leader of Lee County Homeless Coalition. Whereas through the diligent effort she brought through different community organizations to secure homes and resources for residents in Lee County. Mrs. Bartos has manner of treating each person she comes in contact with dignity, compassion, respect, have served to bridge the gap between those suffering from homelessness, their families, and the larger community as a whole. Whereas Ms. Bartos has sought out to speak on the topic of homelessness for her peers in Lee County and throughout the state of Florida. She is retiring from her leadership role as Executive Director of Lee County Homeless Coalition. You will be missed. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Lee County Commissioners of Lee County, Florida does hereby recognize Ms. Janet Bartos for her work, dedication, vision, and offer our grateful appreciation for her outstanding commitment to the people of Lee County and Southwest Florida, signed today by our Chairman, Kevin Wayne. Thank you.
Amen.
Congratulations. Thank you for your service.
Great work.
We'll get a picture here, Janet, and then go to the back of the podium. I know you probably have something you'd like to say to us.
Thank you. Congratulations. Well done.
Well, thank you all very much. This was a surprise. I looked at the agenda last night, and it was a surprise until then. So I'm very honored and I'm humbled. Retirement's bittersweet for me because I have a job that's sad to leave. I've had the privilege of working with so many incredible individuals and agencies that are just dedicated to ending homelessness, and they work hard each day to make a difference in people's lives. Being co-lead with Human and Veteran Services, co-lead of the COC Continuum of Care, has presented me with an opportunity to witness all the good things that are happening with our COC. Most recently, the rapid rehousing programs. They challenged themselves to a goal of housing 100 households in 100 days. Now, that is a very lofty goal. That's not one that's easily obtained. So not only did they reach that goal, they surpassed that goal, and they've done it twice. So I'm very proud to be a part of this continuum of care. It's an honor to work with these individuals. Many of them are here today. And it's also been tremendous help to have local elected officials as yourself to support us throughout the years. I've had a great board of directors. As you know, Therese Everly is going to be taking over as the executive director, and she's just going to do a tremendous job. So I feel I'm able to step back knowing that she's taking the position. And just thank you. I'm looking forward to September 1st when every day for me is going to be a Saturday, right? So thank you all. This means a lot. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. I'd just like to end by saying, like Janet said, she's had a great board, and over the years, even my prior career working with them over the years, and their board and everything they do in our community is so outstanding. And thank you for their effort, and we look forward to working with Therese. I think she's here somewhere. So looking forward to working with, there she is, Therese. So we got great leadership coming back on board. So again, thank you. And Janet, I'm sure you'll stay involved somehow. So we'll see you again, I'm sure. Thank you.
Janet, I'd like to echo Commissioner Pendergrass's. I appreciate all your work you did, and it's an area, a homeless coalition, that's certainly near and dear to my heart, so thank you. Therese, welcome. Look forward to working with you in another new capacity, multiple hats. Congratulations. Great. We'll go on to the recap, and we have a couple of items. Under the recap, we have an update for LOSIM, as well as an item for Commissioner Hammond relative to a discussion on COVID. And if there's any items for things that need to be pulled from the consent agenda, please feel free to speak up during that period of time. But I believe that's the recap. Miss anything else? Wonderful. Next is the consent agenda item. Anyone from the board would like to pull any items for the consent agenda?
Have none?
I have none.
Done.
Can I have entertain a motion?
I move the balance.
I'll second that.
I have a motion, a second on the floor. Any public comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Any other discussion at the board? Seeing none. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that approves and is unanimously passed. I appreciate that very much. We then quickly move on to the administrative agenda. We don't have any administrative agenda, do we? We do? Okay, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. There's actually 7, so I apologize.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to go ahead and introduce this item.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you. I'd like to this is to authorize a commitment of local government funding for affordable housing, and I'd like to ask David Loveland to go over this item.
Good morning, Commissioners. What's before you today, if you'll remember back in June, you authorized the creation of a couple of programs to show local support for tax credit applications to the state for affordable housing projects. One of those was this local government opportunity funding program, which required a minimum $500,000 local match. You authorized that to be in the form of a loan with a 5-year payback, and we're only allowed to support one of those projects per year. So we did a solicitation process based on the board authorization, got 2 applications, and are recommending that the support be committed to the Hermosa North Fort Myers project, which is proposing to build in North Fort Myers on US 41, 80 units for rental by elderly households in the extremely low and low income categories with a compliance period of 99 years. There was,
What's that mean, compliance period?
that they're going to ensure that those units are only made available for people in that low income and very low income categories for a period of 99 years. When we end up doing affordable housing projects funded with SHIP programs, funds, or whatever, there's usually some kind of compliance period required to keep it at an affordable housing level before converting it to market rate for some period of time. And in this case, they're going way beyond the normal period of time for SHIP. I believe it's 7 years? Minimum.
Yeah, it's a minimum of 7.
Right.
Dave, this doesn't have anything to do with any land trust that we have to be involved in this? No. Okay. No, I'm very familiar with, obviously, the 99-year leases we used as a vehicle many times in Sanibel, but we did a land trust where the city owned the land and we leased it back to that entity for 99 years, and that was the common number, 99. That's why I asked. But SHIP, to Glenn's point, is 7 years. Has to be at least 7 years. But thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd love to make the motion with this being in North Fort Myers, so I'll move approval of the
Second
item.
that with you. Congrats.
Yeah.
We have
This
a
is-
motion and a second on the floor. Any public comment?
Excuse me, Commissioners, I would have had a card on this. I guess my question is, because in the thing, it says if the federal, is it federal funding, Dave?
It is.
So if they don't get that, this project is scrapped, correct?
It's a competitive application process for these tax credits.
Yeah.
So they're only going to award a minimal number of projects. So if they don't get it, then likely their project doesn't move forward because it's probably a key component of their financing, and our commitment goes away at that point.
So do we even know about how good a chance they have at getting the tax credits in your conversations with them?
It depends on the other applications that are submitted, which I don't really know. That submittal process is coming up. That's why we have to deal with this at this point in time. So that's hard to say.
Okay.
It's a very competitive process, I know
Okay.
that, so.
Just under, because I know I'm going to get asked, as the president of the Civic Association, how's this work? So I was just trying to get information. Thank you.
Sir? I also have one other card. I'm not certain what it's for, but it's under housing and legal support. I don't know if it pertains to this item. If it does, come on up. If not, I'll certainly take it another time.
Good morning. Michael Allen, Revital Development Group, for the record. One of the co-developers for the proposed project, so appreciate the support from the county, commissioners, staff, in recognizing the need of affordable housing in and throughout the county. I think most importantly, it's just it's nice to see the commissioners and staff really dig into the application, because the tax credits, they're the #1 funding source for affordable housing. They truly, just the $500,000 doesn't make the project work because of the net operating income that's kicked off because of the restrictions on the lower income. So really digging in and getting a good understanding of what the state puts in place for their goals and preferences, and then putting this solicitation out for developers like us to have a good competitive edge over the other state applications is really appreciated. So we thank you for that. It's the 9% tax credits. It's very competitive statewide competition. I think last year there was maybe 10 applications selected. And what the state of Florida is doing is they're really making it the goals and preferences to narrow down the amount of applications and to submit quality applications for quality projects. So to address the question that was brought up here earlier, we believe with the team that we put in place, we have 2 of the other co-developers over there, Marcus Goodson and the Lee County Housing Authority, as well as Rick Miller and his team from National Development. In terms of the project, it's very close to community services, so we score very well there. It's in a quality census tract designated by HUD. with your support, we should get narrowed down into a pool. So last year, for example, there was 88 applications that got narrowed down to 11 that had a similar type of support from the counties for the first year. So with that, there was 2 selected. So it doesn't guarantee our funding, but it certainly gives us a very good chance and potential for getting the award and then developing this project. So just wanted to thank you and appreciate the need and the support from the county and staff. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael, I appreciate it. I do have one other card on the housing support. I don't know if that pertains to this item. This item or another item you'd like to talk about? Is this the item you'd like to talk about, North Fort Myers housing? Come on up. Valdemir. Wonderful.
Good morning, Commissioners. It's a pleasure and an honor to see you back again, like a warrior, like a soldier of the Lord. I know we're facing difficult situations. My name is Valdemar Garay. I've been homeless for almost 3 years. I'm 60 years old, and I became homeless since I moved to Fort Myers area. And I really appreciate the commissioners and all the team, the federal and the state employees that offer all these services for each one of us. I know we are not easy. I know each one of us, we have different situations, challenges, physical challenges, intellectual habits, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But my concern is, I think the last time when I spoke before you, gentlemen, I spoke about the situation with the homeless that are living on the streets, that they are orthopedic handicapped. Institutions, shelters, and other profit or non-profit organizations, they don't want to hold at them. Why? Because there is a high risk to have an accident and being sued, the liabilities and challenged, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you guys are going to be building 80 multifamily units. I want you to consider that if you're able to build units that are with access for wheelchairs and walkers, especially the ramps and the bathrooms, that these people that have those physical challenges will be able to have a home, or at least a happy ending, Most of them, we are elder people, and I think we deserve, that kind of facility that will be able to keep ourselves clean, healthy, and be out of the streets. Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen. And for you, may the Lord bless you and give you wisdom and intelligence, that the Holy Spirit will guide you to the goals and find the results and the answers for all these challenges that you guys are facing at the present time. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion up at the commission level? Any opposition? Go ahead, sorry. Thank you.
It's okay. We all know the challenges of affordable housing, and labor became an issue, materials became an issue, land became an issue. I think I stand on a statewide program. The one thing that we come down to, if this is going to happen, it's going to be the financing piece of this to make this happen. So thank you to the team for going after these aggressively. If it's going to happen, that's probably the key to doing that. So thank you for the work.
Mark, along those lines, I know you have quite a few irons in the fire. You had the responsibility to take me over to a complex where we went through. If you could kind of put together, at any point in time, send me a list of the things that we not only have approved, but things we're working on. There just seems to be a lot of conversations amongst other mayors in the other cities of trying to do something and different templates. I know you and I met with Melissa Rice, but she's had very different inquiries about land trust and how they work, and there seems to be more momentum in that, so I appreciate that. Thank you for all you're doing, and staff.
And Mr. Chairman, those commonalities, as you know, since you work statewide, in our conversations are all exactly the same. Everybody's dealing with the same issue, so where we can learn from each other and share, absolutely. So.
I'm thrilled to see it in North Fort Myers, sir.
Yeah, thank you. We're grateful.
So no opposition, motion carries unanimous. Thank you all. Item number 2, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is to approve a donation of the former Bonita Springs Library to the city of Bonita Springs, and I'd like to ask Robert Clemens to speak at this item.
Commissioners, Robert Clemens, County Lands. As David said, the first part of this requested motion is to declare the former library in Bonita Springs as surplus property, and the second portion is to authorize the donation of the property to the city of Bonita Springs. In the city taking this property on, it creates a contiguous ownership between a pool that is a pool property that's on the north side of West Terry Street and the General Bonita Springs Park to the north of this subject property. Also, the westerly boundary is Bonita Springs Middle School. So keeping this in public ownership keeps a larger parent tract for community purposes.
Have a question?
Sure.
Do we know the use of what Bonita Springs is going to do with the facility? Are they going to tear it down and construct something different? Are they going to use it for something?
I don't think the final determination has been made at this time. We received a letter that they're willing to take it and that they will be voting on the final acceptance the 18th meeting for the city of Bonita Springs.
I know it had some roof leaks in the past and some maintenance issues. Is it still usable now, or do they have to do a lot of repairs if they want to use it, or demolish it?
Mr. Chair? The building has been, we've fixed some of those issues. The only thing that is, if you're going to change the design of the building, you would have to do some upgrades, but currently it can be used in the current state that we have right now.
Okay. Thank you.
And their letter does indicate that they're in their preliminary budget for operations, capital improvements to the facility. So I gather they recognize there's some things they need to do regardless. It does say that in the letter that we got from Bonita.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the staff did a great job probably a year and a half ago on the condition of the building, a full study in the building, so we knew what we had, if we were going to sell it and monetize it, or there was discussions, with the city of Bonita Springs. We wanted to be sure that they knew what they were receiving, and they can put that into their equation and stuff like that. So I think we did enough of the preliminary work that people are pretty comfortable with the status of the project, and thank you for that.
Thank you.
Super. No other questions?
I'll move the item.
Motion on the floor. I'll second it. I'm sorry, maybe you'd like to second it, Ray. I apologize. Mr. Sandelli seconded. Any public comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Any other discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries unanimous. Dave, you could move on to the next item, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the award of contract for engineering services for Sanibel shoreline stabilization for both islands A and B. I'd like to ask Ehab Gerges to speak about this item.
Good morning. Ehab Gerges Construction Management. Item number 3 is to approve a contract with JMT to provide CEI engineering inspections for the shoreline construction for Island B. JMT will do daily inspection to make sure the work is done according to the permits and the design plans.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Absolutely.
I'm going to support today's motion because obviously we need to do this shoreline stabilization on the Sanibel Causeway Islands, A and B. That's a no-brainer, as they say, right? As we get towards the greater construction project on the park improvements, I just wanted to share that I'm still thinking through that as far as what it's going to look like to do the structured parking and things like that. I think we definitely need the bathrooms and amenities that we've suggested for out there. I think the one thing that is going to be critical as we move forward with that project is to have good communication with the public about why we're making the changes we're making, because I think it's tradition. This is like one of the last, Florida kind of traditions where you can pull your car right up on the beach here, throw the tailgate open, sit there and watch a sunset or play and picnic right there at the beach side, at the water side. And, that's going to change once we switch to structured parking. And I think, so communicating why this is the right thing to do for the environment, for the island, for transportation, because that's really what the Causeway Islands were about too, supporting the bridge. I think it's just, we need to be careful as we go through the rest of that process, because I could see a lot of people being really surprised by the changes we're making and potentially, if they're not following our agendas and our projects, our capital improvements closely, they would be upset about that if it hasn't been communicated in the way it should be. So I'm just, I'm nervous. It's something that we even enjoy as a family, is going out there and throwing the tailgate open and having a dinner and watching the sunset. It's got some of the best sunset views out there. But as far as today's item, the shoreline stabilization, I don't have any problem supporting that today.
We don't have many times to chat, so this is a great thing, and I appreciate all your comments, Commissioner Hammond. I've worked with Jesse and the plans associated with that. I mean, we watched our staff requirements over on the island causeways increase dramatically, to try to make sure we staff that with the park rangers there, and certainly seems to have grown exponentially long beyond whatever. Since it is my district, I can tell you I've gotten inundated with calls about just the capacity issues that are there. It just seems to be losing some structure to it. It's starting to, so I understand where you're going, and it's unfortunate that it has been such a successful opportunity. And listen, my wife and I have grabbed 2 beach chairs many times until that sunset, so I get it, but in the same token, I'm also concerned about public safety and just how much that's grown and just the resources we have. So stabilization's one thing, but since you brought that up, just to share, since we can only do this in public, some of the things that are in my head, I'm probably right along with you, and just have that community that's never been quiet in voicing their opinion. I've heard from a lot of people. And Jesse, by the way, you did a great job, and all the feedback I get, from Sanibel as the presentation was unbelievable. So, but thank you. I certainly would support this item as well.
I have I guess a question also, kind of tagging on what Commissioner Hammond said. I've had contacts and communication with people that are concerned about, I know the parking maybe has been an issue, but they're also, like Commissioner Hammond said, you can pull up there and park and enjoy parking anywhere you want and do what you want, but the structure is 2 things. One, we're creating a solid surface on the islands, sandbars basically. How is it going to affect water flow coming off the hard surfaces? And 2, some people think that maybe they heard there's going to be paid parking. So it's an effort to keep people from going there, because you already got to pay $6 to get across the bridge, and now you're going to charge the park. So is it an effort to keep people from going there and trying to reduce the numbers, or is it an effort just to improve the facilities? And that's perception for some people in the community, is that this is an effort by some to keep people from going there because they don't like people seeing them out there having a good time on a Friday night. So it's raise the fees and they won't come back here. So that's my concern about that. And also the paved surfaces on the sandbars basically. Have concerns about that. We always want water quality and everything, and so now you're going to be parking vehicles and on this paved surface, and water flows a little bit different off of that then.
Mr. Chair? To answer that question, we are looking at a number of options when it comes to parking. When you talk about paid parking, it goes in line with what we do at our high-profile parks. So if you look at Lynn Hall, Bonita Beach, Bowditch, they're all paid parking. So that is just a preliminary discussion we've had internally to be consistent with what we do with that type of park. When you're looking at this park, you'll be looking at a number of things. Shoreline stabilization is one, but also some of the runoff that we have with the water. So we got to control some of that. We have washouts both ways. We have it coming in from a storm, and we also have, when we have a rain event, water coming off the road and washing out some of the park area. So we're looking at designing something that will ensure that the integrity of the hardening of the surface, as well as some of the retention that we're going to be putting in place. There are still discussions. We can bring this back forward to you to have a larger discussion on what the park will look like. Obviously, we could do that at any time. Those are just preliminary discussions that we've had based on what type of park it is and the amenities that we're going to put in place.
The parking fees are being minimal. I mean, when you say minimal, but I mean, how much do we know? Is it about the hour, or is it by the day?
Typically by the hour. It's $1 an hour up to $5 an hour at most parks, and it's $2 for high-profile areas, which I believe is $10 a day.
So, just a little input in both areas. One, Sanibel's been involved very much in pervious and impervious pavers, help the environment a great deal. We actually even increased density relative to allow that because it's much better for water quality. The facility that we're looking at and the price tag we're looking at, we would be remiss if we didn't at least vet out the cost associated with that and the way to offset that, because this project, at least in the plans I've seen, will be significant in dollars and consistent with what you do, having come from Sanibel. When I got into office in Sanibel, it was $1 an hour, and I left office, it was $5 an hour for parking. So, and most of the input I've received from Sanibel would be encouraging that we charge for parking there.
So like I said earlier, I don't want to see us get in a position where we're charging so much, we're pushing people away that cannot afford to go there. So to take that away from that family, like Commissioner Hammond said, to go out there enjoying the beach as a family on a Saturday afternoon, I don't think that the county is positioned to charge people to keep them away from that.
I think, but a more detailed, probably, discussion and/or information on this probably would be good for the commission.
Yes, we'll bring back a detailed discussion and for your input and give us direction on where you'd like to see this park go.
Yeah, if I could, Mr. Chairman, real quickly, can I request that we get a chance to, before any parking fees are put in, that the board would get a chance to make that decision on that? And then secondly, before we go to construction on those park-like amenities, that the board would get a chance to review the actual design and the plan, so that we could at least understand it and then be able to communicate it and talk about it in an educated manner. So I've seen some renderings, but I'd love to see when it's ready to go, see the plan before we start spending money and actually constructing it. I think that's appropriate.
I couldn't agree more. So we're still in the designing and planning stage, right? Yeah, I think at some point in time when you feel it's appropriate, I'm hearing across the dais that we can certainly go through some input and a discussion, regarding this. I think that's more than warranted, but since we're in the planning and designing, I think I've hearing consistent. I just want to understand and make sure we're embracing what the community is looking for, the challenges we have from a cost point of view, the challenge we have from safety, and obviously make some final decisions, because to both Commissioner Pendergrass and Commissioner Hammond, I think their points are well noted. It is an amenity, and it's something that I certainly have utilized in the past, and we've certainly gone out there a little bit more frequently since we left Sanibel. So it's a great amenity.
And Mr. Chair, we'll bring this back as a work session.
Great. I like that idea. But thank you very much. Okay, so I have a motion, a second on the floor. Any public comment? I'll close public comment. Any opposition? See none.
Mr. Chairman, who made the motion in second? I think for the minutes she was.
Didn't make one? Okay.
I'll make the motion for approval.
I'll second it. Sorry, I thought that's the way it went. I have a motion, a second. Sorry, thank you for correcting me. Again, I'll ask, is there any public comment? If not, I'll close that. Any other opposition? Seeing none up here, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item number 4, kind of on the same.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is to award the construction for Sanibel Causeway shoreline stabilization. EHAP?
This item is to award construction to Spectrum Contracting, Inc. The construction, as we can see here, would be adding sand along the island on both sides, and we also going to, if I can make this bigger, we are going to add some T-head walls on this side here, and one here, and one here. And the reason we're adding these T-head walls to keep that new sand intact and break the waves, so the sand we are adding will not be washing away in the future. The construction will take about 7 months to be done, and the goal is to finish by end of April, before May 1st, which is the turtle nesting season.
April of 22.
April 2022, yeah.
Of the $2 million, do you know how much the sand component is of the $2 million, the cost?
No, I don't know that, but I can provide this in
Okay,
your office, yeah.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'll move approval, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it. We have a motion, a second on the floor. Any public comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Any other discussion from the commission level? Any opposition? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Dave, move on to the next item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 5 is to approve sole source purchase of upgrade camera software and hardware for tolls. I'd like to ask Randy Searchy to come speak on this item.
Good morning, Commissioners. This item is to purchase VCAR's vehicle camera recognition system. It's just a fancy name for 12 new cameras to go in the toll facilities. We discussed this as we talked about remaining all electronic tolling. We need to get some better cameras with the increase of picking up everybody's license plates. We did, I think, last board meeting, we had the license plate identification upgrade. We have some new signs to get and some mail house services, which is out to bid right now. And the other thing that you asked that we do is make it online available, set up new accounts. And to date, I think we've had 4,201 as of this morning, so. Any questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
And we also are going to have a robust communication program before we switch over into this program, so
When does that start?
October 1st.
No, the communication program.
Communication, Chris, would you like to speak to that item?
Yes, we've been working, the communication team's been working with the folks over at DOT to get our website information out. So cleaning up some of the FAQs, working on social media posting, and I believe looking to see if there's a video that we can post on social media to provide additional information.
Because, once we get to September 1st, if you wanted to do a 30-day campaign to make drivers aware that this is when the service fee is going to restart and the motorcycle discount is going to change, you'd probably want to start that right at the beginning of September and really the frequency, get it embedded in people's minds that this is coming in. I know we maybe even talked about using some of those signs like you do with it's time to renew your leeway discounts anyways, some of those roadside signs.
We have, I think, Betsy Clayton's office putting a video together as well. It'll go out on the website. It's very informative, so.
Okay, great, good.
Commissioner, you are correct. September 1 is our start date for that program.
Perfect.
Follow-up question, do you know what some of the, I guess, attributes of the software might be? I mean, there's other places that actually have multiple uses for the software associated with cameras. There's a lot of sophisticated software you can hook up to Google and use it for other displays and things of that nature. So didn't know if it had any of those capabilities.
These cameras are specifically for toll.
Just reading license plates? Okay.
They also read the front of the license plate, so in a tractor trailer, we're billing the cab, not the trailer.
Trying to get the
type
accuracy.
things.
Okay, that's great.
But we are working on countywide traffic cameras to go up. They'll be accessible on the web so folks can tell at Fort Myers Beach or some other congested areas through Mount Lachey, hey, they can check the camera before they go out and plan their trips accordingly.
That's really what I was referring to. Certainly familiar with that technology and utilize that technology a lot to help mitigate some of the traffic issues.
We're working on that.
Okay, appreciate that. Any other questions?
I'll move approval, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that. Motion is second on the floor. Any public comment? Seeing none, Commissioner.
I had the opportunity to be in the Northeast on an abbreviated vacation and making runs from Atlantic City over to Philadelphia where they have Easy Pass. And it was just a recognition of the challenges of finding the right lanes and people looking and switching lanes. So I think the decisions that we made, to go through on our plan is going to be a great addition. It was like, here's what it was like. And I think it's going to be a very interesting, very efficient system for us. So thank you for all the work that's been done on that.
I'll let you in on a secret, Commissioner.
I'm sure you had one.
Having traveled, unfortunately, Easy Pass more than I like to, so any lane, even if it's a cash lane,
Yeah.
you can go through that lane with your Easy Pass, it'll read.
Well, they start part out, and these are the Easy Pass lanes, and they're marked, so people are moving around.
You're 100% correct, but I've been in the quandary of not being able to get over.
You told me that before I left there, Kevin.
Been up there far too frequently, so, but no, I appreciate it. Motion is second on the floor. We close public comment. Any other discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all. Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is to award a construction contract for surface facility improvements for deep well injections. I'd like to ask Pam Keys to speak on this item.
Good morning, Commissioners. Pam Keys with Lee County Utilities. Items 6 and 7 are companion items for the installation of 2 deep injection wells at our Fiesta Village and Fort Myers Beach water reclamation facilities. The intent of the project is to eliminate our only surface water discharge point from Fiesta Village water reclamation facility. That point is used only during wet weather when we have more reuse water than demand. The deep injection wells will be able to provide a disposal method, a permitted disposal method that does not impact surface water. This meets the most current regulatory requirements that all utilities eliminate surface water discharge by 2032, and construction is anticipated to begin this fall.
Any questions?
I think it's a great idea. I move it.
I'll second his motion.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Any public comment? I apologize. Seeing no public comment, I'll close the item. Any other discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries unanimously. Does that combine the two, or I need to do them separate?
7 and 8.
Need to separate? Okay. Let's go to the next item, please, sir.
Thank you. This is to approve the single source purchase of deep injection well construction, and Pam Keys can address this as well.
So this is a contract for the drilling of the well and the placement of the casing.
Move again.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any public comment? You know, I appreciate your briefing, Chris, as well. It helps a great deal. These are things that, you know, the community is not aware of the consequences if we didn't do things like this. And we spend an awful lot of money here at Lee County, and people don't give us enough credit for water quality. So this, obviously, the alternative, if we didn't deal with it, and the effluent going, obviously, in water bodies is only going to hurt our TMDL. So it just continues to be just ignored of how much money this board, this county does to try to improve on water quality. So just want to make that noted for the record. We spend an awful lot of money, and it just seems like it doesn't necessarily get recognized the way it should.
Thank you.
With that, we do have a motion. We do have a second. Public comments closed. Any opposition? With none, motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. That'll conclude the administrative agenda. We'll move over to the public hearing.
Morning, Commissioners. Joe Adams with the County Attorney's Office. I have the affidavit publication for your clerk. This is a hearing to modify the toll resolution to eliminate the motorcycle discount rate. Effective on October 1st, the motorcycle rate will be $2 for the Cape Coral and Midpoint bridges and $6 for Sanibel. If there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for staff?
I have a question. So is this going to follow the campaign as far as educating the public and informing the public what the changes are September 1st?
Yes, that is correct.
Be all integrated together?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And just for the record, I know we've covered this in our workshop, but can you just describe the challenges we have in trying to read the motorcycles and what we need to go through? I know it's an administrative burden, and I just think it's the more we can clarify this of what we have to do to try to give that discount and how it's inconsistent with all other pass systems out there, having just come from an Easy Pass. It's not one that's there either, so.
If Commissioners, currently, we have to actually code it off by hand. We have to,
So manually?
yeah, manually code it off here, so.
Wow.
It's just, we're the only county in, I think, the state that does it. This will, as we go all electronic tolling and get in conjunction with Easy Pass and everybody, this will make everything more uniform for us.
I appreciate that clarification. I just want the public to also know, and having just come back from the Northeast, I did talk to several friends that own motorcycles. They pay the same fare, so there's no discount, and they were curious how we did it. I thought we did it manually, which I'm sure has to be a really administrative burden for y'all.
Yeah, again, we're gearing up to accept some 43 million transponders from Easy Pass, Sun Pass, Peach Pass. We currently can read them when we take a picture of them. We can tell it if it has a transponder or an account with a different Sun Pass or Easy Pass. We can code that now instead of sending them a bill. And then I think about a year from now we'll be able to use ours in the Easy Pass states as well. So we're getting there.
I was up last week in New York, and I spent $150 in total. So Easy Pass does a great job of having your credit card on file and proactively, just debiting it as you go through the barrier. Mine set up for $50, but when people talk about tolls here, I would love to have them travel the Northeast Corridor to look at the tolls there because they're out of control. But thank you for the insight. I appreciate that. Okay. We have a motion and a second?
I'll go ahead and move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Motion, I'll second that. Motion is second. Any public comment? Seeing none. Any other discussion at the commission level? Seeing none. Any opposition?
I object.
Okay. One objection. Motion carries 4-1. Thank you. Walk-on and carryovers. Let's start under recap. Don't have any walk-ons, just a recap. I'll start off the first recap item. Obviously, LOSIM for the commissioners, I did send the letter back out to Colonel Kelly. Again, we listened, both Roger, Richard, myself listened to Colonel Kelly. I spoke on behalf of the board. Continue to try to press the shared adversity in the discharges and how there needs to be more inequality shared between the east and west. There's really no room to go south, and just put our points on record. I know that there was some other events and meetings, one in Cape Coral. I was up taking care of Mom, so I wasn't at it. I know Commissioner Hammond was there, so thank you for being there, helping the board. This issue, this iteration 3 will go through October. Obviously, there's going to be a transition from Colonel Kelly to Colonel Booth. I just think it's imperative that we continue to put the pressure on and do this. Oddly enough, I did write a letter, an op-ed on my own regarding the IDS and the projects that are so far behind. And quite frankly, if we spent the energy and time, or some of the elected bodies spend the energy and time advocating for the IDS schedule and the funding from the federal side, LOSIM probably wouldn't have the pressure it does. So I did send that to the news press. It'll be in the next couple of days, but I just sent it as my own name. I think it's imperative that we continue to work on multiple things because water quality is going to require multiple solutions. Just continue to be frustrated and disappointed with just the lack of shared adversity in this between, since it can't go south, between the east and west. Those are my comments on the item, and obviously we continue to be engaged. I appreciate the support and I appreciate everyone's involvement. It's just unfair that people don't realize just how engaged we are in this issue and how important it is to our community. So just wanted to share the events, and we have a lot to do before we get to the end product, but I think we need to continue to put pressure on the Corps as much as humanly possible. Agreed. That's my report.
Thank you for your leadership on that.
No problem. Turn it over to Commissioner Hammond. I'm delighted to see COVID-19 on the agenda.
Yeah, well, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity. The board has been receiving updates about COVID-19. The Board of County Commissioners have, and we've been given a lot of great information about it, and I wanted to make sure that we talked about it at the meeting so that the public could get a chance to hear what we're hearing. As far as the COVID-19 situation stands, you all know that the hospital and health system have been communicating their numbers with us again, and we are at a point where we're seeing the most hospitalizations we've ever seen here in Lee County related to COVID-19, and unfortunately we've even seen, as we took a moment of silence this morning, some deaths in our community that have been very high profile, and deaths that we mourn, and certainly we're all joining in praying for those families. So for the last several weeks we've been talking with businesses, we've been talking with our administration here and even with local health officials to see what resources as a county we can offer to help with the pandemic that we're facing right now. And so I'd like to ask if Mr. Harner and perhaps Chris Brady could give us an update on 3 areas. We talked about a monoclonal testing clinic, or monoclonal antibody clinic to provide some treatment, more testing, which is, we're seeing a big demand for that right now, and in our communications plan as well.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate Commissioner Hammond. Oddly, we don't talk to one another, but I've been working with staff regarding this very issue, so I agree with your timing. I think that's perfect. Love to hear some updates.
Thank you. Chris Brady?
If it's okay, I'm going to go up to the podium so I can show you some of the communication efforts that we've had.
Wonderful.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chris Brady for the record. What I wanted to show you today is some updates that we've made as it relates specifically to our communication plan. There's been increased desire for information on testing here in our community. So on our homepage, we've changed our headers up here. So if citizens want to get information, they can click directly on this box, which will take you to our COVID-19 landing page, which has information specifically from the Department of Health, but it also provides a link to current testing information here in Lee County. We will continue to update this information as we get information, but if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, there's information here on where to get a COVID-19 test. Of the testing sites that we are aware of right now, we've created hyperlinks, so if you click on any of these, they'll take you directly to that page's website for testing information. This is curative. They're doing things nationally, but you can go in specifically into finding testing near you. And then on our page, we also provide a map of testing sites that you can put information in so that you can find out the different areas for testing. In addition to that, we are working with our social media team to put this information out onto our social media channels. Betsy Clayton is working with her Joint Information Communication Team, which is PIOs throughout the county to have them boost. And we're also working with our marketing social media folks over at PTE so that on specifically the testing, we can boost our Facebook posts so that we can get further reach into our community. So those are some of the steps that we're taking right now as it relates specifically to communication, and we'll continue to work on those things throughout the rest of the week and into the weekend. Now, Commissioner, to go specifically on those other 2 areas, staff from Public Safety are working with the Florida Department of Emergency Management. The governor announced this initiative last week. The first Duval County, Jacksonville area was the first to receive or set up the monoclonal clinic. We are working with them to see about being a regional asset here in Lee County. They have a vendor who will come in and do all of that. We're finalizing the site that we would be able to set that up. We did receive notification this morning that the DEM does want to continue with Lee County in setting that site up. So we'll provide information. That is a fast-moving, fluid operation right now, but as we get more information, we'll brief the board on how quickly that's moving.
Not to put you on the spot, but what would be the best case scenario if I know it's very fluid and hard to break out that crystal ball, but best case scenario to get that site up and running? Because I believe that treatment can help a lot of people.
Sure. Best case scenario, blue sky, if everything falls into the way, probably within 10 days, 7 to 10 days. Okay. The state is looking to move those things very quickly. So we have staff who are already in communication and working on that right now.
Okay, very good.
Mind if I interject? Just don't get a chance to talk to. You and I spoke yesterday, and I had an update and spoke with the Governor's Chief of Staff, Adrian Lucas. So yes, I was informed that we are approved. Certainly, site was some issues, and happy to do that. They were very complimentary to our success in vaccinating people working with their vendors. So we built up a great deal of political capital. So I was happy and give you all the credit in the world for that. So I'm happy to see that treatment, one of, three prongs that we could have. And, you and I were having conversations, had conversation with Dave, and been talking with Roger for a couple of weeks on this, trying to keep this as close to Lee County. I think this is an excellent opportunity for treatment, and obviously, the analogy I say, it's like thermofuel that you take. It just obviously helps in the duration being shortened, and obviously helps the person deal with it. So I'm really excited to see us pull it off, and thank you for all your hard work regarding that.
I certainly appreciate that, and I can't thank the board enough. Since the start of this pandemic here in our community, you've all been extremely supportive of all of the efforts that we've taken here within the county. So we're going to continue to move forward. But we received that notification today, so thank you.
Testing, I appreciate the map, but there seems to be a great deal of anxiety in the community. We've certainly gotten overwhelmed, and we seem to have a greater demand than we do have for testing. Appointments aren't as readily available. I was speaking with Angela Smith last night, and she had indicated that they could procure a vendor to come down to 1 to 7. I certainly think that makes a lot of sense. What I'd like to do is be offensive, let the community know we recognize this. I think the antibody treatments that we're doing, coupled with expanding testing, enables people that have that anxiety. I mean, first and foremost, if you have symptoms, please stay home. I mean, it's just really important to do so. And I know you want to know the results, but if you're running a fever and you're lost your smell, your taste, whatever. But if we can move forward with at least having those conversations, I did have several people call me up, and they were anxious because it took a couple of days to get a scheduled appointment. While we have this peak and while those resources are available, I think it's in our best interest that we try to give people as many options as possible.
Couldn't agree with you more. We've also reached out to Angela Smith from Department of Health. We are working with her and her staff not only to expand testing hours, hopefully at her clinic on Michigan Avenue, but to bring a vendor in so that we can host here through the county additional testing sites. So the same way we're working through that with Monoclonal Clinic, we're working with Department of Health on expanding testing hours as well as testing sites. So back to your question, best case scenario, all blue skies, if everything goes the way it should, we would hope that we would be able to do that in the same time frame. But I know that Angela and her team and our team here are working as fast as they can to get those resources available to our citizens.
Good deal. What do you need from us in order to get those that testing site set up? I know a lot of people are asking about, can it be at the CenturyLink Stadium? I think it's where they were used to going. They're just, and I imagine our logistics would probably be very similar to what we were using in the past. I mean, would it be quicker to set something up in a place where we've already done it? We already know how to do it there?
There are a number of places that we're looking at. That is certainly one of them. The vendors who come in are completely self-sufficient. Okay. So they will come in and work with Angela's team as well as our team to let us know if a site is acceptable for their setup. So, looking at the CenturyLink site, we need the vendor to come in and let us know. But as soon as they come in and we provide them the information on where, then we can get a confirmation that that's a site that they can make work for them.
Well, you certainly would have my full support, and I think the board's full support to reach out to them as urgently as possible and get the testing ramped up here. I know just it's a service to the community and the business owners. If you have an employee who wakes up with some sniffles and they want to know if they can go to work or not, they want to be able to get that test to know if they need to quarantine or if they don't have anything like COVID. So you all have been working so hard on this, and I thank you very much for that work.
Appreciate it. Again, appreciate the board's support.
Chris, if that site, if we went back to CenturyLink, would it be a volunteer, like a show up as you come, or is it be an appointment process?
I believe that the vendors are setting up appointment processes. So there's a number of vendors on the vendor list, but they come in and they set up the same way Curative does, which is who Lee Health has contracted with. They set the appointments up. Some of their mobile clinics, I'm not 100% sure. So We'd need to get some additional information if their mobile clinics would be walk-up or if they'd be appointment only. But when we get that information, we'll certainly brief the board.
I really, truly think sooner the better. I think, as my colleague said, it's a really important, it's a community service, but, it's going to help the hospitals out. We have staff here from Lee and Memorial and Lee Health Systems now, and I think it's really important to get people out of the ERs from getting tested, to get them back tested and get them back home if they feel like there's symptoms, to get them, to let them know. If they already need treatment, they need to get treatment, and that next phase of that is our EMS. I saw in the news last night where our EMS is being utilized as hospital rooms outside of the ERs. It's going to be devastating to for service to calls. So we need to get people out of the ERs back home and getting tested somewhere else to help the whole system overall.
Yes, sir.
Right.
It's interesting to look at the two commissioner items, and I thank you both for that. Those two issues are extremely important to us. And so, as the chairman, your work and encouraging people to chime in because of the urgency of that matter, and then looking at COVID-19, if you look at the numbers, I think we saw them, the majority of the pressure come in the system is from those that are not vaccinated. It's people's choice, but I hope they will consider that would take some pressure off the system, that's something we can control. So encourage it on both issues, and thank you both for picking those up.
Yeah, I think, again, thank you for all you're doing to try to make this happen. I think we do have a responsibility to the community, let the community know that, it's their choice, but we want to try to provide as many facilities and options available to them, whether it's antibody treatments that we potentially could do, more testing, because obviously there's some anxiety associated with that. So again, being proactive to let the community know we're trying to come up with solutions in a proactive way. These all take time. So as they ramp up, we see we start to have the conversations. I think the public just doesn't realize just the logistic aspect, which you do so seamlessly and you make it perfect, and I appreciate that. And the communication plan that we do may be no different than hurricanes. We become a little complacent because numbers obviously dropped, and people have bad memories of doing that. I experienced this personally with inside my other company when someone in the controllers area tried to go get, and literally just walked across the street, and they were like appointments, and then had to wait a couple of days. So I know that anxiety has been shared with our community, but I can't thank you enough for doing this. I don't know exactly, Commissioner Hammond said that, but you have the full support here at across the dais. Let's do whatever we can do to secure the antibody treatment. Let's do what we can to get testing up and giving people multiple things. And during this campaign, if we could just remind people all the various options to get vaccinated. Again, it's their choice, and I will always be siding on that issue of choice. I don't necessarily think it's anything other than a choice, and it's really your personal decision. So, but thank you for all you did.
Again, want to thank the board for all of their assistance, and I'd be remiss in saying, our one organization of culture, it takes a lot of hands. So on behalf of the county manager's team and the rest of the organization, thank you. They've been working hard to get these things put into place for our community. So thank you on their behalf as well.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Oops.
No public will close that. Then I have county manager items. I do. I'm sorry. Let me digress. Let me go back to committee appointments. I know everybody has committee appointments, so I missed that. So let's go back. Commissioner Mann.
Not here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 3 reappointments. I'd like to reappoint Matthew Repstorff to the Executive Regulatory Oversight Committee, Thomas Leonard to the Land Development Code Advisory Committee, and Jennifer Sapin to the Land Development Code Advisory Committee.
Second.
Thank you very much.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Any public comment? Any opposition? Motion carries unanimous. I do have 2 reappointments and 1 new appointment. I have Thomas Phillips to the Construction Licensing Board. I have Jay Johnson as a reappointment to Land Development Code, as well as Paula McMichael to the Land Development Code.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any other discussion? Any public comment? Any opposition? Motion carries. Thank you.
I have a couple. I have a new appointment of Kyle Follett of Eagle Technical Committee, reappointment of Linda Wright, San Carlos Park Special Improvement District. Reappointment of Randy Chris, Land Development Code.
Second?
Motion is second. Any public comments? Seeing none, I'll close that. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries unanimous. Commissioner Sandelli.
Chairman, I have one new appointment, Monique Ward, to the Palmetto Point Special Improvement District.
I'll second that. Motion is second. Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll close that. Any opposition? Seeing none, motion carries unanimously. Now we'll go back to county manager items.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have no items today.
Wonderful. County attorney.
Nothing for the board's consideration, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Wonderful. I'll go to public presentations. I do have one card from Willie Joe Shopmiller. Willie Joe? I don't have any other cards from anyone else, so if anyone else would like to speak on the public comment, please raise your hand.
As you know, we all are trying to remedy the homeless situation, and we would like to see what the county and the city all own, to see what could be utilized. Like your library was, you talk about donating to, what you call it, that if we could find some buildings or properties that could be utilized and purchased in time back from the counties or the city, we would have something. I remember years ago, the Salvation Army would do so much a day. This is back about almost 30 years ago, where they didn't have this homeless situation. You know, they went out to work, they were packed a lunch, they could come back until they could get other housing. Same principle we're looking at is to create with all the nonprofits, the people that feed people, like I'll be going today to a city gate and helping feed people, is rotating the money to the nonprofits that comes in from the rent of people staying, you know, cots, whatever, till we get the affordable housing built. That way we don't have people on the street. So I'd like to meet with the county, Human Services and Veterans Human Services and discuss this further. Roger, after the meeting, I'd like to talk to you. We need this remedied. People don't need to be dying on the street, as we all know. We want a better community, we want better tourism, and we're going to get that by showing that we care about our people. With that, thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Any other public comments? Seeing none, no other issues before the board, I'll call for an adjournment. Thank you all.